face. Oh, once a week. There it is. Man, knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. Knew it was coming. There. Morning, Knicks. Hope the new gig is going well. Now that I've finally figured out the right buttons to hit, morning. Soccer's morning show. Soccer down here. It's a Wall Pass Wednesday. Whatever's on your mind and whatever's on our mind as we are here in the midweek. We've got matches tonight, one including another trophy. And we'll get into all of those matchups later on here in hour number one. We have our Wednesday guests planned as always. And I know that with Bart Keeler and the SoccerForUSPod and reffing down here, I know that you have questions. The Johnny Russell call, the Yorgos Giacomakis chip and the play that led into that and why it was allowed. And some stuff with the U.S. national team. And there was another story that I want to get into about privatization and women's soccer. And so I wanted to get into that with Bart when he joins us at 10:30. As always, Dylan Butler, hopefully joining us around 10 o'clock, and we can catch up morning pars and get his thoughts about everything going on in Major League Soccer. There's news overseas, and that'll be after opening kickoff, because originally I was going to say that it will be opening kickoff, but then I changed my mind because there's another story that I saw out there that I'm like, yeah, that one's going to be opening kickoff instead, because it's more opening kickoff-ish than the opening kickoff story that I originally had it as planned. So it's news overseas. It is getting ready to watch another championship tonight here in U.S. soccer. We'll get through all of that. The game's going on in hour number one. Hour number two, Dylan Butler and Bart Keeler, and that'll get us ready for Wednesday. The rest of the traffic for the week. Later today, the MLS Next Pro week in review, that'll be posted on the network. We catch up with the new franchise in the NPSL for a 1v1 up in Wisconsin. That gets posted later on this afternoon. And those that is today. Tomorrow, friends from the USL show joining us at their standard 10 o'clock slot. It's the last Thursday of the month. Kaylor Hodges. I know Kaylor will be here. Hopefully the rest of the band of renown can join us at 10 o'clock. And at 10:30, we'll discuss one of the things that Bart wanted to talk about was the rebrand in Seattle. So we'll get early thoughts on that, considering it's a Wall Pass Wednesday. And Bart will want to talk about it. We know that Nico will want to talk about it. We'll see if Nico got the new gear on the release. So we'll catch up with Nico Moreno, our friend from Pulso Sports, and the soccer bar. He'll be 10:30 tomorrow. So hour number one tomorrow will be wide open. We'll discuss what happened today, tomorrow, with News of the Planet, and then we'll have the USL show coming on at 10 o'clock, and we will have Nico Moreno coming on at 10:30. Friday, standard stuff. It'll be 9:05 on, 9:30 our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring. 10 o'clock, we'll have weekend whip around for those folks that are deciding that they're going to play this weekend, not named Atlanta United. We might have a golden ticket holder come in and crash on the Friday show. We'll keep you posted on that. And when they show up, then they will have crashed. And so we'll run through all of that. So that's the next couple days. And we will run through all of that stuff. Knicks, that is the story that we are going to be getting into after opening kickoff, because I wanted Nick's Nick, N-I-C-K, apostrophe S's opinions on that. And Par's talking about FIFA ratings and the new logo, Morning Ricky. And so we will be getting into all of that coming up in just a little bit. So now it's time for opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch, as I cover up the QR code that's available for the rest of the show and to lead things off in hour number two. Thanks to everybody who's kicked off your day using our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Facebook, on Twitch, and on the 280-character app. Then what you can do is use the code SOCCERDOWNHERE15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it into the Youth Game Youth Initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Close the hand. Pull the QR code. All right. This is just a question in general. And I didn't know if this had ever happened to you with a piece of clothing. apparently, Aston Villa is asking for a new kit after the team is complaining of feeling weighed down when they're physically active. And anybody who has seen an Aston Villa match this year from our friends at Castore has seen what these Villa kits look like. So Villa has complained to their kit maker, Castore, after players reported concerns their shirts were weighing them down during matches and affecting performance. Has this ever happened to you? When you have a piece of clothing that gets all perspiry, sweaty, wet, weighed down, has it weighed you down and affected your performance to the point to where you've reached out to the manufacturer of the piece of clothing that you were wearing and going, bruh, I need you to do this over? Apparently, that's what Villa and Castore are going after each other about. Villa have asked the Manchester-based sportswear company to remedy the issue after the player said the shirts were clinging to them because of perspiration, creating a wet look. Beat 2, 3, 4. Brentford's director of elite performance, Ben Ryan, recently told The Guardian how they reported a similar issue with Umbro. So apparently this is not just a Castore issue. Brentford's away kit last season did not contain sweat-wicking technology, meaning players were carrying an extra 500 grams during matches, prompting them to wear their third kit whenever possible. Collectively, over 90 minutes, that adds up a little bit and also might make you not as comfortable and not as confident. So all of those small things come into it, quoting Ben Ryan. Villa are 2 years into a, quote, multi-year deal with Castore, which also produces kits for Newcastle, Wolves, and Rangers this season, as well as Andy Murray and England's cricket team. Castore's tagline is demand better, premium performance. Castore has been approached for comment. Villa returns to action in the Carabao Cup and the Gummy Bear Cup at home to Everton on Wednesday. So, have you ever had this issue? Has your kit manufacturer ever given you something that has just weighed you down completely, that has made sure that you were not getting perfect performance, complete performance? Or are you just like me, you go out there, you wear a T-shirt, whatever happens, the T-shirt hangs on you, and it is just this thing that looks like it is draped on top of you, and you're like, okay, I'll just get another T-shirt out of the car. Just asking. Ricky, yeah, those kits absorb sweat like crazy. Retain sweat. Tafka says he's never felt weighed down. But an adult league team you played for got kits that were, you think, polyester. Why in God's name are you getting polyester kits? When I was in elementary school, my mom and my grandfather wanted me to stay active outside of baseball season. So they put me in a bowling league on Saturday mornings. And my grandfather would drive me from the house to the bowling alley. And it was over at Northeast Plaza here. What used to be a long strip mall inside the perimeter. It was at Northeast Plaza. I was in the bowling league, and you'd bowl like 3 games. And on a good day, I'd bowl like a 150. The bowling shirt that they gave you was straight up polyester, and I mean straight up polyester. Straight up polyester. And so the bowling league shirt, anytime anybody mentions sports and polyester, that's what pops into my head is the bowling shirt that I had when I was in elementary school. Scratchy, nasty. You've got to wear a shirt underneath it. All that kind of stuff. Ay. And so polyester was playing. Tafka says he's playing like with half your body in a steam sauna. Absolutely, you were. And now Castore, and apparently you're looking at Castore and Aston Villa in a staring contest about their moisture-wicking technology, and Brentford not happy with theirs. In trying to be sleek, you've created a bit of an issue. Ricky says, to be honest, they never should have gone away from Under Armour. Yes. The irony of that slogan, Everton, you told us to demand better. Yep, that's where you are. You're not exerting yourself quite as much at the bowling alley, though. But I mean, it's just you've got to still wear another shirt because of that polyester in the bowling league. I mean, that shirt is just, it scratches all over you and you can't focus. Polyester, that's just, that's so bad. But yeah. So now apparently teams in the Premier League, they're a bit cheesed at Castor. Aston Villa's mad, and Brentford's mad at Umbro. So moisture-wicking technology is the way, and it will be interesting to find out if Villa and Brentford get their way and get their moisture-wicking kits as opposed to what they apparently currently have now. And our friends at The Guardian, by the way, they posted a picture of John McGinn, and here's the caption. John McGinn sports a wet-looking shirt during Aston Villa's win at Chelsea last weekend. Just go ahead and say that he was auditioning in a wet T-shirt contest. I mean, honestly, you were right there. You could have gone right past it. Sports a wet-looking shirt. No, it's wet. John McGinn was in a lather. So you should have just gone ahead and said what it was. Gone with the cheeky caption, but you didn't do it. So keep an eye on your favorite club and their moisture-wicking technology. That's opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for hour number 1. For those of you who are watching on Facebook, on Twitch, and on the 280-character app, don't forget to use that QR code and use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchases. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Closing the hand temporarily, you have 2 QR codes. There's a QR code for hour number 2. All right. We got a lot of news this morning. And if Nick joins us in the hour, we may circle back to this. But to Nick's point, this was going to be the original topic for opening kickoff. But let me start it this way. How many of you in your life have been on social media or had your picture on social media and been made fun of on social media? Show of hands. How many of you have been made fun of on social media? Doing your job, I guess I should say. That would be the codicil to this. How many of you had been made fun of on social media? And how many of you have been made fun on social media doing your job? So, hands raised. You can comment as you wish. It has gotten so bad, apparently, at Napoli, where they thought they were being funny, that Victor Osimhen could take legal action against his own club over a TikTok video. And, you know, if you go to the Heisman house, you will know all about the TikToks. So Osimhen could take legal action. He is reserving the right to do so against his own club after they posted a bizarre video apparently mocking the player. The video, which, of course, was deleted, but, of course, you deleted by the club. That does not mean it has been deleted from civilization. Featured a clip of the strikers' penalty miss from their goalless draw with Bologna on Sunday with an odd sped-up voice dubbed over the top. This is from press agencies over in Europe. Osimhen's agent, Roberto Calenda, wrote on the 280-character app, saying, quote, "What happened today on Napoli's official profile on the TikTok platform is not acceptable. A video mocking Victor was first made public and then but now belatedly deleted. A serious fact that causes very serious damage to the player and adds to the treatment that the boy is suffering in the last period between media trials and fake news. Calenda said we reserve the right to take legal action and any useful initiative to protect Victor. Then, doing the Lord's work, that's basically what you're staring at. The video was pulled and called and kept by Fabrizio Romano, doing the Lord's work. Tension between Osimhen and Napoli's manager Rudy Garcia. Morning, Alex. In the game against Bologna, the 24-year-old Nigerian striker was seen berating Garcia as he was substituted with 4 minutes to go. The goalless draw. Garcia played the situation down. Last season, Osimhen helped Napoli secure a first league title in 3 decades, scoring 26 goals in league, 31 in all comps. The summer transfer did not extend his contract, which runs through 2025. Of course, Napoli did not respond during regular business hours. So, it's Osimhen asking for the penalty from center ref, getting it, and then the high-pitched voice leading into the massive penalty miss. And so now Osimhen wishes to sit there and after this, he and his agent, they're going to think on it for a while. They're going to think on this for a while. But to add to it, from our friends at Talk Sport, I'll give you one guess. as to a Premier League club or the Premier League club that is monitoring the situation. Give you one guess. Nope. It's Chelsea. I know you're shocked. Chelsea are admirers, and once again, this is from our friends that I've yet to see any kind of apology at all, Ricky. They've deleted the video. And if the video got deleted, that means it didn't happen. Chelsea are admirers of Osimhen, courtesy of our friends at TalkSport, and could use the bizarre spat to step up their interest. Mauricio Pochettino has made it clear he wants a new striker in January, and the Blues are also among the clubs showing an interest in Ivan Toney. Brentford would demand 60. Also on Arsenal's list of targets, but this is expected to rise near 80 if multiple teams are at the table, and that's understandable. And so TalkSport reinforces what was said by Calenda. But yeah, so Chelsea, I know you're shocked. Chelsea is keeping an eye on the entire situation. We would like a striker. Hey, Victor, are you mad at your current club? Would you like to leave? And so, of course, a bully Clear Lake. Hey, sure, why not? Let's spend $11 billion more and try and bring folks in. Osimhen was a target for Chelsea and Manchester United in the summer in the process of negotiating the contract extension with Napoli that he eventually did not take. Signed by Napoli from Lille for an initial €70 million just over 3 years ago, a transfer which is being investigated by Italian authorities. And we got into that yesterday with Nick and Agentopoli, which is currently what's going on. Italian media reported that Aurelio De Laurentiis among those being investigated by prosecutors for allegedly falsely inflating values. Napoli are 7th in Serie A, 7 points behind league leaders Inter Milan, winning just 2 of their opening 5. Garcia's side host Udinese today before traveling to Lecce on Saturday, then welcoming Real Madrid to Naples on Tuesday night. So, Chelsea and Victor Osimhen. But yeah, I have yet to see any kind of apology from Napoli at all about anything. Basically, if the video is not on social media, it doesn't exist. Except from our friend Fabrizio Romano, who pulled it, embedded it, kept it, and posted it. What are you doing? Napoli, what are you doing? You thought it was funny to do the TikToks and make fun of your striker that helped you win the league last season with a high-pitched voice, making fun of his remonstrations about wanting to take the penalty at the time and calling for a penalty and then missing it. So you want to make fun of your own striker with I guess like a Minnie Mouse or making like a Minnie Mouse voice-ish kind of a thing. But I mean, no, it was very high pitched. But seriously, what are you doing? What are you doing? You ain't thinking, that's for sure. And so it will be intriguing, to say the very least, if someone from the media that is social will end up keeping their employ after a situation like this. Napoli, what are you doing? Maybe if there's something that you sit there and you're like, well, we got a lot of stuff going on with our owner. Let's do something to distract everybody from that. So let's make a really stupid TikTok video, make fun of our striker. Brilliant. Brilliant, I say brilliant. 4 matches tonight in Major League Soccer. 2 of them having to do with titles. The one at 8:30, I know we've got a lot of folks to talk about. Like I said, we'll talk to Dylan about it in the beginning of hour number 2. Miami and Houston, CBS Sports Network, Telemundo. Captain Khaki, Ben Olsen going into Miami. And this, honestly, this should not have surprised anyone at all in the -1 press conference. It should not have surprised anyone at all. Should not have surprised anyone about what happened in the press conference. It would go in a matchup like this. Why? I feel like Ross. Why? Why would you want to say something like that? Legitimately. I'm serious. If I I mean, think about it. Why would I give any team any ammunition in any situation like this? Messi and Alba did not train on the eve of the Open Cup final. Tata says we'll decide tomorrow. Jordi will be tougher. Leo, we will decide tomorrow based on how he's feeling. And then Tata, Michelle Kaufman from Miami Herald, asked if Leo, Jordi trained this morning. Tata goes, he smiled. He says, they came out after you all left. I mean, seriously, why give Houston any more ammo about anything? Why? In any situation. And I mean, this is just in the more recent idea. But why in the wide world of sports would I sit here and tell you when a title is being decided, yeah, so-and-so's not going to play. So-and-so's not going to play. Why should I give the opposition less to prepare for? My gut tells me that it's going to be probably a halftime substitution with Lionel Messi. He'll come. He won't start. He'll be on the 18. But it will be something that will go down second half. You manage the first 45 minutes. Messi comes in. Everybody cheers, especially those in the new temporary seats that were put in at Drive Pink. And then you can sit there and go, well, okay. And not be surprised by any of it. Game time decision for the final. Not a shock. Not a shock one bit. Messi, and it is being described by Tata as fatigue. Sit down with him, see how he feels. We always talk. Really don't know if later in the resolution that we make is the one we agree on. Perhaps tomorrow we'll get together and see what he says. I mean, it's a trophy. Come on. Messi scored, just to recap. Messi played and scored for Argentina September 7, so 3 weeks ago. In the World Cup qualifier against Ecuador, exited the match after 88 minutes, traveled with the team to Bolivia for the second qualifier, didn't play, not available for selection. Returned to Miami, missed the game here, started against Toronto, 36th minute, he's out against Toronto. And then handed the armband to DeAndre Yedlin, subbed off in the 37th, missed the 1-1 draw with Orlando City. Tata, quote, "First of all, I say this having known the league from having been with Atlanta for 2 years. In reality, at every club, there are very few reports of who is injured, who will travel, who won't travel. And here it's a special situation. If Leo wasn't in Inter Miami, we wouldn't be talking about an injured player. You ask me very few times about Gregory or Mota, and that happens." And that's true. And after that, this is just part of football. You're talking about the best player in the world. I have to acknowledge something that would modify the approach of our opponent. And why give that information out if I can keep it to myself? I know that his presence is of interest to people in terms of whether to buy a ticket or not. What we want is to try and win the game. You win the game by being better than your opponent, but it's small details that can make things work better for us. We understand the expectations and the desire to know. Martino was asked whether he pushed Messi too hard by playing him in the game against Toronto. I won't say no. Sometimes it's difficult because between the medical team, technical staff, and the player, we talk. We look at how the player feels. Last 48 hours before the game, he did everything he needed to have a good solution, and in the end, what happened, happened. It's a lot easier with the result in the rear view. Sometimes we get it right, and sometimes we get it wrong. It's possible we got it wrong. Busquets. We understand that people come to see us and it's who we play for, but we're not machines or robots. We'd like to play every game, every minute, not ever get injured or fatigued, but that's not something we control. At the end of the day, you have to think about the success of the team in the long term, end quote. It's a handicap when you don't have the best player in the world, of course, Busquets said, but we'll wait and see till tomorrow. Maybe there's a chance he can be there and help us, but if not, there'll be another teammate who, with their quality, will contribute. 600 minutes Messi played in August. Any calendar month exceeded in minutes played since he left Barcelona in 2019. And that was when Tata said that they were going to measure his strength and his fitness the rest of the year and risk him against playing in a cup final and other competitions. Martino said the team remains focused on trying to sneak into the playoffs. NYCFC on the weekend at home. Chicago October 4, FC Cincinnati October 7 before the October FIFA window. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. 5 matches in 16 days. They're in the middle of that right now, including this title game tonight. And yeah, I saw the Nick's goes, how passive-aggressive is MLS scheduling Campeones Cup the same night as U.S. Open Cup final? Well, I mean, I think that since LAFC was a part of it, you want a West Coast time slot. Tigres is there. So it ends up being a beneficial doubleheader for the league with these matchups. And right now you look at juice boxes. Inter Miami's a minus 110. Draws a plus 280. Houston Dynamo are a plus 246. Once again, that's in 90 minutes. And we actually have other games tonight because folks have to catch up. On the free, and both of them are on the free side of Apple TV. And Apple TV, once again, along with Major League Soccer, your championship competitions, staggered windows, your 2 games that folks are getting locked into, separate windows. They're on the free side of Apple TV, by the way. Campeones Cup is on season pass with LAFC and Tigres at 11 o'clock. I don't think I'm going to be staying up for the whole thing. Probably watch it just to kind of sit there and say, oh, there's Campeones Cup. But 7:30, Philadelphia and Dallas. Philadelphia and Dallas at Subaru Park at 7:30 as we kind of get into the whip around section here. 7:39 kick is 14-8-7 hosts 10-10-9 at Subaru Park. Union have won only 2 of 15 all-time meetings with Dallas. Did not know that. Losing 8, drawing 5, including a penalty shootout win, though those 2 wins came in the last 2 meetings in Philly in 2017 and 2019. In fact, the Union have only lost once in 6 home matches against FC Dallas. Union have drawn 2 straight regular season home matches after winning 18 of their previous 21 at Subaru Park. Still, the Union have suffered only 1 defeat in their last 36 league games in Chester, winning 26, dating back to September of 2021. We probably should just stop right there. FC Dallas has lost only 1 of their last 11 in all comps, including 2 penalty shootout losses. Dallas won their last away match, 3-1 at RSL, but they haven't won 2 straight road games in all comps since a 3-match run back in 2018. Philadelphia with 4 shots and LAFC with 2 combined for an MLS single-game record low. 6 shots on Saturday, with none of the 6 shots finding the target. If I'm not mistaken, they were battling a tropical storm. The combined expected goals value of 0.3 was the lowest in an MLS match since Opta began tracking the stat in 2011. FC Dallas came from behind to earn a 1-1 draw against Cruz Saturday. 8th time Dallas has avoided defeat after trailing this year. Tied for most in Major League Soccer with Atlanta, Cincy, LAG, and New England. Dallas is 16 points from losing position, so the most in Major League Soccer in 2023. I would still go in this matchup. I would probably still go with Philadelphia here, especially with what those first two stats that we were staring at with these matchups. Philly is a minus 132, plus 279 on the draw option, and FC Dallas on the road is basically a plus 350 in the composite. 9:30, Colorado's chasing after the wooden spoon, and boy, are they chasing after it. They are a home dog tonight, going up against Vancouver. Rapids are a plus 200. Actually, I should say, let me take that back. In the composite, they're a plus 199. It's like, when you go to the gas station and instead of gas sitting there and being $3.50 right on the nose, it's $3.49.9. To make it kind of ease in a little bit, to where you think it doesn't hurt your wallet that much more by saying it's $3.50 a gallon. It's $3.49.9. Colorado is a plus 199 in the composite over at Odds Portal. And it just moved to a plus 200. So you see, you talk something into existence sometimes. Plus 272 on the draw. Vancouver on the road is a plus 122. So in this one, looking at your favorite fun facts here, once again, free side of Apple TV, Dick's Sporting Goods Park, Commerce City, Colorado. As 4-15-10 hosts 11-10-8. The home side has managed to only win 4 of the last 15. That bodes well for Colorado. Dating back to 2016 with 2 home wins each, Rapids recorded a 3-1 win over Vancouver at home in 22, ending a 5-match winless run against them at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. Colorado's lost 7 of their last 8 in all comps. Now just have 2 wins in their last 21, losing 15 dating back to mid-May. Whitecaps will play their 7th straight away match in Colorado on Wednesday. Having lost the last 2 after going unbeaten in the first 4, Vancouver hasn't played a home match since August 20th. Football season will do that. Diego Rubio recorded a goal and an assist for the Rapids against Portland Saturday. Second Colorado player with a goal and an assist in a match this season, along with Danny Wilson, who did it against RSL in May. Brian White scored his 12th goal of the regular season on Saturday, equaling his career high set in 21. Just the second Whitecaps player in MLS history to record multiple 12-goal seasons after Camilo Sanvezzo did so in 2011 with 12 and 22 in 2013. Don't overthink this one. It's Colorado. Then, we mentioned the 8:30 kick with Miami and Houston at Drive Pink. No fun facts here. Okay. So no fun facts released by our friends at Major League Soccer. And then Campeones Cup, Tigres at LAFC. Can LAFC get revenge on Tigres? I don't know if they can. I legitimately do not know if they can. So let me see if any juice boxes exist here in this one. Open Cup, NISA, USL Championship, Major League Soccer. So do we have one with North and Central America? Yeah, we do. Okay, Campeones Cup. LAFC is actually favored at a plus 108. Your draws a plus 248. Tigres are a plus 214. I don't know about that. I'll take the draw. I think they go straight to PKs at that point. But, yeah, 11 o'clock kick. But I think, Nick, to your original point, I think what our friends at Major League Soccer are doing is they've got the East Coast game at 7:30. They've got a bit of a runway. 8:30 is Open Cup. Then if you want to go watch Colorado and Vancouver, you can. That's why it's on the free side of Apple TV. But that's why also Campeones Cup for the West Coast audience is on season pass at 11 o'clock. Do you remember your Campeones Cup? I remember my Campeones Cup because, let me see if I can turn and find it. Yep, it's right actually directly behind me. So, there. Let's see if I can get out of the way enough. Right there. Right in there. You see, there's the Campeones Cup scarf. Winner, Campeones Cup dinner. So 4 matches tonight, Major League Soccer, 2 of them in league, 2 of them not in league. Taking a look at the standings, once again, Philly, this is to get them to 30 games. If they get a win tonight, they go to second, 52 points. Then Dallas, right now, heading into this matchup, is in the 9, and they got folks breathing down their neck. KC at 38, Minnesota 37, Austin 35, LAG 34. Like I said, we'll get into this with Dylan coming up at the top of the hour. And we will discuss. But you have that activity with the early game. That's what's in play. That gets Dallas to 30 matches. So they're within the range of having to do things. Then Colorado plays their 30th match. Vancouver plays their 30th match. And so then everybody's kind of getting in line with 30 and 31. LAG still at 29 with games that they got to make up. Charlotte and Miami. Miami, obviously, with their run an Open Cup, they're at 29 matches. They got some work to do with the postponement from Charlotte. How about that for a home and home to end the year? That may not mean a thing. Charlotte and Miami. We'll keep an eye on that. Tom missed Campeones Cup. You watched from a bar in Charleston. I'm glad you could at least watch it. When you went to go watch, when you asked them for it, when Atlanta United was in Campeones Cup, Tom, when you went into the bar and asked them, did they look at you funny? They're like, what are you talking about? And you sat there and had to explain this versus this. I need this on this network. And then they're like, oh, okay. Or were they an understanding soccer bar? Were they an understanding soccer bar? That's the question. So there's, some folks understand, some folks don't. But, yeah, very, very interesting. Oh, speaking of which, Tom, not being hard to find. Okay. Speaking of which, we do have a bit of an Everton update. So if you and Ropes want to go earmuffs, you can. It's more detail on just how bad off the financial situation is, with 777 partners hanging in the balance here. The Guardian lists it as controversial, and this is from Andy Hunter, and this came out this morning. Debt and cash flow problems increased considerably since the owner stopped propping up the club. This we know. Recent loan from 777 partners taking the total of outstanding loans above £350 million. Interest on loans from rights and media funding, MSP Sports Capital and 777 Partners is understood to be costing Everton more than £30 million a year. That's the interest. So that's not quite 10%. So it's like 9%, 9.5% interest. A loan of about £20 million from 777, which has a signed agreement with Moshiri for his entire 94% share, gave the company short-term working capital. That was required, despite the club making a profit on player trading this summer and drastically, I was about to say, when you combine drastically and dramatically, you get drastically reducing the headcount and wage bill. A previous loan of £140 million from MSP that included $40 million from the local businessmen Andy Bell and George Downing went to the Stadium Development Holding Company to continue work on the new home at Bramley Moore Dock. A loan facility with rights and media funding has been extended to £200 million. Further loans are likely to be needed to fund the day-to-day running costs and payments to the stadium contractors, Lang O'Rourke, before the end of the year. The decision on 777's proposed takeover is due to be made by early December. The Miami-based company requires approval from the Premier League, the FA, and the Financial Conduct Authority to become Everton's owner. If the takeover is rejected, then 777 is the only viable option for Moshiri. The club has posted losses, and Tom mentions that the A word has been used with increasing frequency. The club has posted losses of £417.3 million over the past 4 years and needs a further $200 million to finish work on the new stadium. All these numbers are in pounds, unless notified. Everton and 777 are confident a deal would spare the Premier League of having a high-profile financial crisis. Everton also deny they're at risk of the A word. See, Tom, I didn't use it. Everton deny they're at risk of the A word because even in the event of the takeover falling through, the club would remain in the hands of a billionaire, meaning Moshiri, who would not want his already considerable losses to mount. But as we've said, Moshiri has stopped funding it. He's invested about £750 million for little reward and has had to try to secure refinancing options before agreeing to sell. 777 have to overcome several difficulties to bring Moshiri's era to an end. The details of what are believed to be a performance-related deal have not been disclosed, but the company must provide proof of funds for the takeover, the stadium, meaning Bramley Moore Dock, the debt, and the day-to-day costs. Rights and media funding is content with the proposed takeover, having previously objected to MSP buying a 25% stake in the club. But MSP wants its £140 million loan repaid in the event of 777 taking control. They want out of the investment. 777 is going to hold talks with MSP in an attempt to keep it on board. First examination of the more stringent owners and directors test. 777 has faced allegations of fraud and unpaid debts, which the company denies, subject to active legal proceedings here in the United States. The company's co-founder, Josh Wander, pleaded no contest to a 2003 drugs charge, but that may be considered spent. It's going to be an independent commission next month over an alleged breach of the profit and sustainability rules. Supporters of several clubs that 777 own, including Hertha Berlin, Standard Liège, Vasco da Gama, and Red Star, have staged protests against the company in the 2 years since they started building their portfolio, the multi-club model. 777 has agreed to meet Everton's fan advisory board to discuss concerns over its plans for the club and the new stadium. The Metro Mayor of the Liverpool City region is due to meet with representatives on 777 today after expressing fears for Everton's future. So there's all of that. And I know that a lot of you are sitting there going, This ain't good. And it's not. It is absolutely not. Chelsea is set to receive a Premier League approval over their shirt sponsor, Infinite Athlete, thought to be worth about £40 million a year. The club have purchased land next to the Surrey training ground. Waiting for the deal, Chelsea bought land opposite the entrance to their training ground, started the season without a sponsor. They have like the Dayglow logo, and that's about it. We saw that when they were here for the summer series. Search was led by the new chief executive. Potential deal with an online casino fell through after backlash, and another with Paramount Plus was blocked by the league. The company Infinite Athlete was established this year after a merger involving something called Tempus Ex Machina, time outside of the machine, which signed a 7-year partnership with Chelsea. Bowley Clear Lake have endured difficulties on and off the pitch. Could be too late for Infinite Athletes to make their debut for the Carabao Cup tie tonight against Brighton. Could be unveiled for the Fulham match next Monday. It will also be worn by the women's team. So it looks like there might be a sponsor for Chelsea on the front of their jersey. Okay, so and this is the kind of wall-passy stuff that I like. Pars, thank you for asking. How does this sort of thing happen? Meaning the Everton discussion. And Tom, if you and Jason, with your ties to Leicester, and Alex, with your thoughts about Newcastle, and Ricky, I know that you will all help out in this discussion. How does this sort of thing happen? Parzival asks. I don't follow anything other than MLS. Seems like every time you talk about over there are issues in the millions or something illegal. How does this sort of thing happen? I'll meet for coffee to learn more. What you have, and this is just my perspective, like I said, Dylan Butler hopefully joining us top of the hour. What you've got in this situation with any major league is the idea of feeding the beast and staying up with the Joneses, being competitive, continuing to stay competitive even if you lose track, those kinds of things. And what we see in these leagues with these first league clubs, in these countries with these first league clubs, is the desire to stay in a first division, in a first division, and insert country here. And in the Premier League, where you have all of this revenue coming in from all these different sources, you feel like it gives you almost like a shot of adrenaline, or like a B12 shot or something. And what it does is it makes you feel better about yourself, but it doesn't help you in your day-to-day operations. It's like, yeah, you've got all this stuff, but if you don't invest it properly, you spend poorly, and then you continue to lose and throw more money after bad money, and it turns into worse money, and it turns into worst money. You continue to throw money at a problem, and it doesn't fix the problem. Then when you add in the countries of origin of these owners and how they received their gains in the first place, and then the world comes calling, you got to do something. Farhad Moshiri, Alishar Usmanov is a Russian oligarch. We all know how folks feel these days about Russian oligarchs. So Alishar Usmanov was a part of, yes, Alex, quote, it's complicated. It is. It absolutely is. You have international intrigue, international money. You've got business interests. All of it blends into this idea of a toy, a very expensive toy. And if you, at the big boy table, are not winning and you're still sitting at the big boy table, on a Monday morning when you go and you get to have breakfast with your buddies, how'd your weekend go? Well, we lost 4-1 to Bournemouth. That's not going to go over well at the table, at the big boy breakfast table on Monday morning. So you're going to want to spend more money, and you spend more money, and you're still not improving the product, and it reflects on your hiring practices and your purchase practices and purchase ideas. And Dylan is a Newcastle guy. We'll bring him into this discussion too, but this is why I like bringing these kinds of topics to the table on a Wall Pass Wednesday. But Tom says Farhan Mashiri meddled too much, made some bad decisions. So they were in bad shape. And then Ukraine happened, and a good chunk of their funding disappeared with the sanctions in U.S. dollars. That's it in a nutshell. Then you consider you spend bad money after bad. Your team doesn't improve. And you're like, oh, how am I going to compete? I don't have the money anymore. I'll take out loans. Hey, I'll hook up with MSP. I'll call Michael Dell and his hedge fund group. Hey, you want a piece of the action? They sit there and go, sure, but it'll cost you 10% interest. Or there have been some astronomical interest ideas and numbers floated. Oh, sorry. I was thinking U.S. dollars, U.S. millions. Thank you. USM is the company owned by Usmanov. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, I was thinking in U.S. dollars. So all of these things, spending bad money after bad, international intrigue, where you get your money, when you don't have as much and you still want to compete. And USM was going to be the naming rights part of the new stadium. Yikes. So you don't have a naming rights partner. Well, Spurs doesn't either. That's another thing. How Spurs doesn't have a naming rights partner for their stadium, I have no idea. But you have all of these different things attached to international business models and international businessmen. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and all these things go wrong, everything cascades, and it ends up in the issue. And you're right now where Tom and Ropes and his fan base are, praying you don't get relegated. First and foremost, praying that you get a new owner. But secondly, praying that you don't get relegated. Because if you get relegated, then we had that discussion yesterday about lack of revenue coming in, lack of ability to find other sources. And right now, Everton is a win out of the relegation zone. 4 points right now. They've lost 4 of their first 6. They did get the win last time out, stunning everyone and probably including their fan base. Just ask Tom, beating Brentford 3-1. It was a bit of a shocker. They got their first win of the year. But as we've said, and I think we figured it out, the 6 teams right now at the bottom, those are going to be the ones that are going to be fighting it out. Sheffield United, Luton, they came up from the championship. They're coming in from a financial disadvantage in the first place. Burnley was the one that was involved with Michael Dell and had some payments that were astronomical interest rates. They stayed afloat, but now what do they do with their new ownership that includes J.J. Watt, et cetera? How are they going to respond? Bournemouth has the new ownership from Bill Foley and Michael Jordan. Not that Michael Jordan, the actor, Creed. And they're still trying to do things fairly economically. They've found their business model. But Gary O'Neill is not their coach. He is at Wolves after Julian Lopetegui was like, y'all aren't investing, I'm out. And Wolves was like, oh, Gary O'Neill, you know how to do this on a dime. Come on in. So Gary O'Neill's coaching Wolves, and Wolves right now is worse than Everton on goal difference with the same record. And Everton, we've been talking about their situation. So you notice what's going on. Brentford has found a way through a business model. Nottingham Forest has found a way so far by spending money and bringing in 9 gazillion transfers that Steve Cooper has to juggle from their owner Marinakos, who also, if you look at his history, has some interesting business dealings. Like I said, Brentford's found a model. Brighton's found a model. Brentford needs a striker. But I think the 6 teams at the bottom are the 6 teams that are going to be squaring it away. But I think that Luton and Sheffield are the 2 right now that are odds-on favorites to go back to the championship. So 4 teams for 1 spot. And Tom, our resident Evertonian, never thought he'd find himself in the position of praying for some city-like oil money to come calling, but there I was. But that ship sailed apparently. Now you wait to see what happens with 777. So, yeah. I mean, that's when your team is the one that everybody's staring at, wondering about the level of competition, wondering about what's going on the planet, how are we going to continue to be sustainable, and it turns into a bit of an issue. That sucks from a fan perspective. But right now, that's where Everton is. That's where Wolves are. Bill Foley made the point when he picked up Bournemouth, because everybody was linking Foley to a team in Las Vegas in Major League Soccer. They asked Foley at the time, it's like, dude, why did you not invest in Major League Soccer? And he said, look, I can drop $150 million and get a team in the Premier League right now. By the time I would have invested money to be a part of Major League Soccer, it would have been $800 million. So Bill Foley saw a business investment that was going to cost him what? What's 15 over 80? 7.5 over 43, 17.5% of the value of what it would have been to invest, probably by the end of the day, what the folks in San Diego are going to invest in their expansion team. Bill Foley saw a business investment in the Premier League, got in at the ground floor for $150 million and got Maxim Demin, who also had questionable financial pathways to leave because of the debt that he had rung up. And so Bournemouth right now on a shoestring, they get it. That's their way. That's what Iraola is used to doing. But you've got teams that are not used to doing that and fan bases that are not used to seeing it. And frankly, Tom, you and Ropes and every Evertonian that's out there, I don't know how your hearts have been able to take it the last 3 seasons. I really don't. Being there, having to go all the way to the end with Big Dunk or Frank or Sean Dyche or whomever and try to come up with some magic at the next to last week of the year or the last week of the year to stay up. And I think that speaks a lot about the fight of the players, regardless of the financial situation around them. So, yeah, I mean, it's I tip my hat to you guys. I really do. But it ain't over, and it's going to be there a while when it comes to everything involving Everton and the Premier League. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and we'll tell you where else you can go today. Once again, Bart hanging out with us. Yes, in a word, it sucks. Absolutely it does. Absolutely, Tom, you're right on. It does suck. All right. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. We'll tell you what to watch. We've got a lot of other news. You know, Dylan Butler will hop in if he can, running around, one of the busiest men in show business, and then Bart will join us at 10:30. If I could figure out where my the tab that I was opening was. I've got let's see, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 19 tabs open on this first computer. Arsenal sporting director Adu has had talks with Aston Villa striker Ollie Watkins about a move. Chelsea's also interested. I feel like I should end every sentence with Chelsea is also interested because it's true. Villa remain in talks about extending Watkins' contract. They wanted a new deal finalized by January. He scored his first goal of the season on the weekend. Arsenal and Chelsea are willing to offer players as make-weights, as well as money in their attempts to sign Ivan Toney from Brentford, who are likely to want in excess of £75 million. That's from 90 Minutes. Spain defender Marc Cucurella, or is it Cucurella this week? I don't know. He's told Chelsea he wants to leave in January after his summer switch to Manchester United fell through. We'll go through all of the rest of them as we go. And because the man's got to get his coffee, he's got to get his mug, and he continues to be grateful. He's taken the sip of coffee in the green room and hanging out with us for 20 minutes. One of the busiest men in show business, as we have said, Dylan Butler. We were going over the Everton situation before you came in.
Okay.
And how much of a mess it is. And one of our listener watcher A-plussers says, how does this sort of thing happen? I don't follow anything other than Major League Soccer. Seems like every time you talk about it over there are issues in the millions or something illegal. So how does something like this continue to happen in the big leagues over in Europe? And I said it was a mix of politics, economics, where you made your fortune, and trying to continue to have the breakfast at the big boy table on Monday morning and talk about how successful you were on the weekend.
So, pardon the ignorance here, but a quick refresher on the Everton situation.
777 Partners is looking at taking over for 94% of their main ownership. But they're a controversial investment firm waiting for approval from the Premier League. If this does not happen, dude who currently owns Everton is like, I ain't spending any more money. I've thrown in about $350 million or $450 million bucks. I'm done. And they've also got FFP staring at them in the face. They have substantial losses in the hundreds of millions of dollars over that same period, which is not good according to financial fair play rules. So you could have a team, and we have fans that are in pitch who are using the A word when it comes to Everton if this deal does not go through with this controversial firm.
Yeah, it's funny. A different but similar tones, right, to the Newcastle takeover. So I'm certainly well versed in that. And actually, as a result of watching the Amazon series, the We Are Newcastle, got a little more acclimated into the financial fair play, and it's really, really an interesting catch-22 for a club that's trying to push up, like Newcastle are trying to push up, right? Like to join the likes annually of the cities, the Man United, the Liverpools, Arsenals, Chelsea's, Tottenham, probably. So how do you do that? You buy players, but you can't just buy players. It has to be lined up with what you're raising as a club. The money that you're bringing in as a club needs to weigh closely to what you're willing to spend. So for the Manchester Uniteds, the Arsenals, the Man Cities, well, Man City maybe is a bad example because they've been caught up, but they just seem to print money, right? Because they're such a global brand. So Liverpool is a global brand, to me at least. So that's a little bit of what Newcastle are trying still to do under the leadership of former Atlanta United man Darren Eales to become a global brand.
Right.
Then they have the owners that are like, look, we will spend, we don't care. But they've got to right now spend wisely. So how do you become a global brand? That's by probably winning trophies and playing in Champions League regularly. But then how do you do that? By getting better players. But how do you get better players? So it's like it's this. Yeah. It's a big catch-22. Now for Everton, they've got the issue, and theirs isn't a new one, I don't think, for them. They're always that second fiddle in their own city. And yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's a league that's becoming very fractured. I mean, I think MLS people in the front offices and some they'll tell you that's why there's this parity in MLS, that anybody on any given day can win, and even compete for a trophy if you're in the playoffs, right? That's not really the case in England. You'll have that one-off of a Leicester City, but the reality is it's still the big four. If teams like Newcastle are trying to break in, big five or so, who are always your teams because of the ability again to get players and because they are a global brand.
Yeah, and so I wanted to get your Newcastleian perspective about trying to keep up with the Joneses, because we were getting into financials and
it's really hard. It's really, really difficult because there's so many shirt sponsors. Sure, everyone gets shirt sponsors, right? Like different kit manufacturers. Sure, Newcastle just got Adidas. But it's about, again, coming to America this summer was big for their brand, right? Having a great year last year, but now it's also like you gotta try somehow, even in this group of death, to make a run in the Champions League. You've got to stay afloat in the Premier League while you're playing on multiple fronts. So not easy. When you're on, I think it's a lot easier when you're on top of that mountain and you just want to try to stay on that mountain. But to climb the mountain, that's not an easy one.
Yep. Alex, one of our resident Newcastleians like yourself. Basically, you have to overperform for 1 to 3 years and incrementally add pieces to replace the overperforming with expected performance during that window. If you just try to buy the expected performance level at the beginning, you can get into big trouble.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Like, and now you don't want to be a selling club necessarily, right? Because you want to, again, bring in the big players. So it's very, very difficult. In Darren Eales, I guess we trust.
Yeah, you and your fellow Geordies. Yeah. If this deal does not go through at Everton, they could be selling off Jordan Pickford and a lot of their other big names in January just to try to make ends meet. And we have been having
we already tried to help them out. We took Anthony Gordon off their hands.
So you're right there working. Major League Soccer, they're not done tonight. You got folks who got makeup games tonight, but you've also got 2 other games, one for a title and one for a made-up title, which is still a title, and it's a weird-looking trophy last time I remember. The gamesmanship by Tata Martino about saying whether or not certain individuals were going to play or not play really should not be a surprise under any circumstance. He said basically at the -1 that you're not asking these same kinds of questions about Gregory and Mota, but you're asking them about Lionel Messi. Why give fuel to the fire? Why sit there and it's like, yeah, he ain't playing? No, you want to sit there and have as much subterfuge as humanly possible and go, we'll see. You don't want to give Ben Olsen anything else to anything less to think about.
Yeah, look, I can see it on two vantage points. One, from a team perspective, this is going into the sport that we both love, the NHL, where lower body
injury.
We'll see. Game time. So you have no idea. The guy's on you have to wait until the pregame skate, and maybe he takes the skate. Yeah, so you have no idea if this guy's playing. Playoffs are over. You find out that his leg was broken in half, but he was putting it together with duct tape. So
Mark Recchi.
Yeah. So from a competitive advantage, I get it, right? From Tata, certainly. U.S. Open Cup is different because it's not a league match, but on the other side of things, there is, and I handle it for MLSsoccer.com, the injury report, or the player availability, it's called now, report. And from the league mandates that you, like the NFL, right? Like you've got to give your injury report, basically.
Okay.
Some teams work around that. Some teams hand it in late. Some teams don't do it. So maybe there's not enough oversight of that. I don't know. I don't hear about teams if they get fined or slapped on the wrist or.
I'm just here to hand you this list, Dylan, so I don't get fined.
So I can see it on both sides, right? You add in now the as you like to call them, the juice boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Now it becomes a little bit of a dicey situation, right? If you're a league that partners with
with a juice box.
Any of these websites, you would expect then to be able to, that people would have the most information to wager on, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they don't now, right? So, it's a tricky situation. I could see it on both sides of it. Well, but this is U.S. Open Cup, completely different situation. I'm not writing up an injury report for the U.S. Open Cup, so have at it, Tata. Go right ahead.
I mean, yeah, well, because and I find it interesting that when you're dealing with juice box royalty, as is tied to, I believe, the league that we covered, that you got folks that just don't hand in information you, sir, are intimately responsible for this list, and you have teams that are either late or don't hand in info. Seriously?
Yeah, correct.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's suboptimal.
Some maybe day of the game, a couple hours before the game.
Huh.
Some have it tied into their own sponsored
distribution of information. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So then you have to wait for that on the individual team website. So yeah, it's a lot of moving parts.
Okay. What does your gut tell you about tonight in the first of the two competitions that are not affecting the standings in Major League Soccer?
Yeah, I don't think Messi starts. Now I will say this: I would think the game would dictate his arrival.
Yeah.
Whether it's at halftime, whether it's at the 60-minute mark, whether it's at 75-minute mark. But I will say this about Tata: everything that I have guessed at this point, he seems to do the opposite. So Toronto game, a good example. I thought he'd come on maybe the 60th minute. He and Alba, right? Load management, perhaps.
Yeah.
He started the match, and then they left in the 35th or whatever, 37th minute. So I don't know what Tata is going to do. My guess is it's a second half Messi, and his arrival is based on what is happening in the game at that point. Obviously, no Alba. I think Busquets starts. So
okay. Let's go to the other side.
Don't wager on it.
No. I tell folks, do what I say and do the opposite.
Correct.
Let's go to the other side. Houston under Ben Olsen has been one of the quieter success stories that we have out here in Major League Soccer this year. I don't know if it's because of the low expectation that we all had when it came to the Houston Dynamo, the lack of coverage short of the Glenn Davis and his show down there in Houston, where they just kind of fly below the radar and they just kind of do their thing, and maybe that was to the benefit of Houston. What have you thought about what Ben Olsen's done in season one there with a new owner that wanted to make a splash?
Yeah, I think if St. Louis wasn't having the record amazing expansion season that they've had, I think you would talk about Ben Olsen as perhaps the coach of the year for what he's been able to do. It's been. I mean, I think a few things had to happen. I think you had to have the buy-in from the biggest star, and I think you've got that. And Hector Herrera. Last year, it didn't seem like he was bought in or all that completely invested, perhaps. And maybe, again, it's based on wins and losses. But I think you've gotten a buy-in from him. I think you've got a really good midfield unit there as well that complements each other. So I think it starts with that, and I think they've sort of rallied around just this miserable summer that you could have in Houston, and they rallied to make it a difficult place to or embrace the difficultness of it for the opponents. They've called it the hell in the shell, which I certainly appreciate.
Yes.
So yeah, listen, I think, and it's so hard to just sort of sustain success. So they've had their a little bit of roller coaster as well, but I think for sure, like of those 3 Texas markets, Austin, perhaps because of their newest team, they get more of the attention.
Yeah.
Probably Dallas after that, and then Houston third, right? So it's kind of similar to the California part of it, where Houston you would say is akin to San Jose.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because of sort of how Houston became Houston, but I digress.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of sort of flying under the radar. So I think all those things worked out well for them. Absolutely. I think it's harder to have this reclamation project with all the attention focused squarely on you, which is kind of what we're seeing from Miami, right?
Mm-hmm. The other one at 11 o'clock tonight is a Campeones Cup. It is LAFC going up against Tigres. Do you care?
Do I care? No. Will I watch? Yes, because I have to. No, I'll be working. So
okay.
Late night. Yeah, it's hard to care, right? Like, the idea of this was pretty cool in the beginning, but then you get Leagues Cup and you have Champions League or Champions Cup now. So it's I don't know. It's hard to care about this, and I think the 2 teams will probably. I didn't look at the rosters, but equally not care about this because they both have more important games on the weekends. So a lot of triple digits probably out there for. If you could have triple digits in MLS, I wish they were triple digits in MLS. Great. But you'll have a lot of triple digits, I think, on both sides.
LAFC 2 season is officially over, so you could get those triple digits out there. Guys like Aaron Bebo and things like that. With with that going on and everything else that we're staring at, you look at what happened this past weekend and how it leans into what's going on this weekend. Has your hot seat changed any when it comes to any coaches and their futures, or has your order changed? Has your guys changed when it comes to hot seats? What are you staring at with coaches now?
I thought Nick Cushing's seat for a while was getting pretty warm.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not now. Obviously, it's going to be based on if they make the postseason, and NYCFC's put together a couple wins now, and they've moved above the line. I would say I think Adrian Heath's should be warm.
Yeah.
Right? Should it not?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then to see, like, on the weekend, AZ come back and burn them like that. Now, we've said this a million times on this show. I do not know why Adrian Heath / Minnesota, they don't put a value or proper value on young players. They just want to ship them. Yeah. And they want to bring in, I don't know, like the Finnish national team, it seems like. So I think it's a young league, and you need to have success with young players. So maybe this is kind of spinning around, turning on them now, but I would think that his seat would be pretty warm at this point.
Josh Wolf?
Probably. Yeah, I mean, because and we've said this too during the year, like, who are Austin? Like, did they just crazy overachieve last year? Or was it 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Right? What year are they in now? 3 or 2?
I think this is 3. Yeah,
3, right? So 2 years ago, did they crazy overachieve or whatever? Last year, I don't know. Who are they? Yes. Are they the team that was a Western Conference finalist, or are they this middle of the road team? Right? The data would tell you that they are who they are now, and that they did overachieve. So, sure, I think his seat should be pretty warm.
Let me give you a posit for
Like, here's
next.
the thing too. Like, I was thinking. Sorry, John. I was
Huh.
thinking like Christian Latanzio is an interesting one
Absolutely.
because, like, how much do you put on a coach? So many games where you just lose
Mm-hmm.
the farm late. Like, they've given up so many leads. Like, they could be certainly a playoff team, maybe a team that's looking at a top 4 spot with all the points they've dropped. So I don't know. I mean, is that? I mean, I guess that all of this ends up being on the coaches, to be honest. But
I think so. I think you're spot on. Let me give you one that's a wild card that we've had here on the network. John Herdman.
he's on the hot seat already.
Yeah, considering what the situation he's coming into.
Well, it's getting colder in Toronto, so that might be good. Like that he jumps in the car. He has the heated seat. Yeah.
But considering what he's jumping into, and how he's not afraid to let you know what's on his mind. Never having coached a club team before, not in a league sense. He's never coached a league team before. All he's done is go from youth to women's national to men's national, and then it's like, yeah, I think I'll coach a league. I'll coach a league side, and it just so happens to be in the largest media market in the country, where you're having the most attention drawn to you, and you're not afraid to sit there and speak your mind. I think John Herdman's seat is already hot. Even though he hasn't done a thing, he's going into a hot seat situation.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but like, if you're Toronto, this like all these I'm not getting the right metaphor, but like just this rotating door of coaches. Like,
well, Bill Manning's seat should be really hot too.
His should be hotter than any of the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point or your question about the coaches, like, every time I think you bring in a new coach, like, you're pushing your development back because you've got to start, at a ground zero. So, if you give him a 10-game lead up and they're 7-3, and you get rid of them, like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Right. Like, as an organization, like, what, we got to start over again, so.
This weekend, Crew and Union, Messi and Friends hosting NYC. That one will not be played at Red Bull Arena with a bad water pipe. Let's see. Revs in Charlotte, Red Bull Chicago, Orlando City hosting Montreal, Toronto hosting Cincy, Copa Tejas, Houston, Dallas, your Finns and the Earthquakes, Nashville and Seattle in an interesting one. All Caps and Sporting Kansas City, the Interstate Derby. Was it the I-74 Derby or whatever? Colorado and Austin, LAG, Portland, Vancouver, DC, LA, and RSL. What sticks out in your mind this weekend? Crew and Union out of the blocks?
I was going to say Miami NYCFC.
Okay.
Because it's a 6-pointer of teams right there at the line, or at least Miami trying to push up to the line. All the conversation around them making the playoffs, you would think they would be right below the line, but they still have teams to climb over. So I think for me that is at the forefront, again, because I think if NYCFC win a third straight game, I mean, they're really cruising then. And what is it? 5 points, 5 matches right now for Miami. They really don't have much wiggle room right now. So I think that should be a fun one. And but yeah, no, I think Columbus Philly is interesting. Who are Philly, right? Like, are they a cup contender, or are they a team that, certainly we didn't learn anything from that LAFC match. We were so excited about that one, and that was a boring 0-0 that you don't blame that on the rain, by the way.
Why not?
Milli Vanilli, you cannot.
I was right there with you, but I was hoping that you would continue the verse. So we blame it on the stars? Was that what you're saying?
If you can get 8 goals in the same conditions at Audi Field, you can get something out of that one. 2 teams just not interested in anything. Like, they were just like, look, we'll take the points. Let's just get out of here. No one gets hurt. So that was unfortunate. So hopefully none of those situations this weekend, but I don't think as many super, super really interesting ones as last weekends.
Right.
But definitely a couple there that stand out for sure.
All right. So what's Varsity Media got this weekend?
I'm off. I have I'm off from everything. I have a out of town wedding to go to. So
do people not understand
upstate New York,
north of the Mason-Dixon line, that this is football season and that you're not supposed to have weddings during football season?
It is what it is. So my wife's cousin is getting married. So that's what I'll be.
All right. Well, busiest man in show business, Dylan Butler, Varsity Media, MLSsoccer.com, OSDB Sports.
By the way, check out that OSDB on OSDB Sports. By the way, check out that Chris Wingert story. I thought it came out pretty well. I'll shoot you the tweet. You could retweet it.
We will retweet.
It was pretty interesting from his perspective of going as a player. Here's real quick. Here's the lead, and I think it was pretty fun. Like, he's had a house since he's lived for all those years in Salt Lake and Park City, Utah.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got the house. He's got the morning coffee, looking out at the slopes. It's like January, right? He's like, oh, what a beautiful morning. And then he realizes, like, oh, snap, RSL are in preseason right now. I was having conversation with them. Maybe this isn't going to happen. Like, maybe my 15th year will not happen. So, and in that sense, it was sort of like it hit him, like, whoa, like I'm done. Like, who I've been for my whole life, this soccer player persona is perhaps gone. And on the other side of it, it's like, well, I didn't work out this morning, and that's fine. I'm not too worried about that. So, then it was sort of about him trying to figure out his post-player career, and he's found that as an agent with Rock Nation. So,
oh, very cool. Well, yeah. So shoot us the link, and we will retweet on the 280 character app. Get ready for the wedding that is not yours this week, and we'll catch up with you next week, my friend.
All right. Cheers.
He is grateful as always. That's Dylan Butler. And so we do the hot tag, and that means that I have to figure out. I was trying to figure out where this is. Where is this part?
Oh, it's just another part of the apartment.
Ah, okay. I was like, what in the wide world of sports? I did not recognize it.
Right next to the window.
Ah, okay. So Bart is here, considering it is Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
And I do have a couple of things to discuss with you on a couple of different levels. We do have a little bit of this from the NWSL. So let me go ahead and see if I can hit the right buttons.
Hit that sounder, John.
Bay FC has named their first head coach. The NWSL Expansion Club hires Albertine Montoya, who was most recently the interim coach for Washington Spirit. So Bay FC wasting no time in bringing in Albertine Montoya to be their new head coach.
Well, they're moving forward. I think that's a good start. You saw how that benefited San Diego, getting a coach well before the start of their season and able to kind of lay the groundwork and help guide player selection. Because as much as I'm sure the sporting director has their vision, it helps to have a coach in place. We saw that with Atlanta and how having Tata can actually make your team better.
Oh, you wanted to talk about what's going on in Seattle. I know that we'll talk to Nico about it tomorrow.
Look, okay, yes, I want to talk about the Seattle brand refresh. I don't want to call it a rebrand. I think that's a misnomer.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Seattle, so I don't have the connection to the logo they have.
Yeah.
But I do work in marketing and branding.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a fantastic update to I don't think the logo was that good. I think that's just where I kind of stand on this. I think that what they currently have is a little boring, which people say the new one they just said is even more boring. But the one they have now to me is boring. It's a little misguided, and it doesn't really stand the test of time, even as it's 15 years old.
Yeah. My first question would be, did they need to do a refresh?
Did they need to? Probably not. But I think in the context of they, definitely positioned this as something they're doing for the 50th anniversary of the club.
Yeah.
I understand that. If I were to rank MLS clubs that needed a refresh or a rebrand, they would have not been in the top 5. They may have been in the top 5 once we get down to it.
Who's your top 5?
Oh, well, Real Salt Lake is number 1. That logo is terrible. On top of the name, which is also terrible. So Real Salt Lake would be 1. I really don't love the FC Dallas logo, but that's just my personal opinion.
Right.
And after that, I think that you're looking at a team like possibly who?
Crew.
They should have just never changed.
But
Seattle has a logo that I think people think is iconic, but that doesn't mean it's good,
Yeah.
And I think what they did with this refresh was take the important elements, present them in a cleaner, more direct way, and also provide some other brand options for the club to play with. Now, I don't love that the Orca or the Carnation isn't incorporated into the badge yet. They're just using them anyway. But I like the whole suite that they've created. I like the new word mark of the Seattle Sounders. The one they were using on the badge was very bad. It was bad. So this is a great upgrade to that. And it just gives them more fun to play with. I guess they added a color, the teal. They've added some darker blue. They didn't change any of the colors. They retooled them a little bit, but everything will feel the same when it's presented on the field. And I think that's what's going to matter the most when it comes to, I don't think they're going to be going to a teal blue jersey at home. I still think they'll keep that rave blue and green, or rave green and blue, I should say. But, I think this was a better, one of the best refreshes that we've seen in a while for MLS.
And I give them, meaning Seattle, a lot of credit for their alternate jerseys, the Jimi Hendrix and the Bruce Lee. They've done some fantastic work outside of their word mark, outside of their logo. And and me being a sucker for nature, I'm glad they brought the whale back in as a part of the discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that the whale adds to the whole brand suite. Maybe we'll see that on a jersey. Who knows? It could be something that you put on the alternate. I think a lot of how Arsenal does just this cannon, which is absolutely something from the crest. But, you don't need to have Arsenal FC to know what this cannon means. And I don't think you need Seattle Sounders FC to know what the Space Needle in 1974 means.
No.
And I think to me that speaks to the iconicness of the brand personally.
Yeah.
That they didn't need to add all this stuff. They don't need to add Seattle Sounders and one green shield and a blue shield that are overlaid on top of each other and look terrible when you try to go monochrome. They kept it simple because they don't need to add a whole lot of stuff, because Seattle Sounders is a very iconic brand in North American soccer.
Women's soccer on the national side, the national team no longer has Julie Ertz and Megan Rapinoe.
Yeah.
And I don't think we had the chance to kind of discuss Julie Ertz at all. But when it comes to their legacy of Julie Ertz and Megan Rapinoe, I guess we can take this a couple of different ways. Let's start within the context of the women's national team.
Mm-hmm.
Think about them and their legacies that they're leaving behind. What do you think they are?
Well, I think you have kind of two different types of legacies, both equally important. I think the first thing you have to look at is the on-field, what this means. And we saw how finding a Julie Ertz replacement is impossible because she's one of a kind. And for my money, she's the best defensive midfielder that the U.S. has ever seen, period. She might be the best defensive midfielder in women's soccer history, period. She's possibly a top 10 all time in U.S. women's soccer player history. Not just as a defensive midfielder, but also as a center back. She won 2 World Cups playing 2 different positions. Both times she was not the reason the team won, but the reason the team was able to be so effective and potent, because for the most part, she was doing her job incredibly well, better than anyone else could do. So replacing her is going to be the hardest task that the next coach has, because we saw Vlatko try to do it with Andy Sullivan, who, that just never worked. But then you look at the off the field legacy and the bigger impact legacy, and Megan Rapinoe has done that more than anyone since the 99ers, and possibly more than the 99ers, mainly because she was able to put the pressure on the federation to come to the table to find a way to get equal pay. She got she had to go through 2 U.S. Soccer Federation presidents, got 1 fired, basically, and finally was able to leverage the success that the team has had to get the equal pay agreement that they deserve. Obviously that wasn't just Megan Rapinoe's doing, but the way that she took the burden and the spotlight on her in 2019, no other player in U.S. soccer history could have done that in the same way. For such a small girl, she has such broad shoulders. And I think that alone, we are seeing how that has spurred conversations globally for all women's programs to kind of look at the U.S. and say, well, they did it, why can't we? And we saw a lot of that in 2023, this past World Cup, and we're still seeing, unfortunate that we're not seeing, true payoff, because some federations, Spain, don't want to pony up and treat women the way they should, give women the resources they should be receiving, or treat them even with any sort of respect. But I think Pino's impact off the field is greater than her on-field impact, and that's saying a lot, because she won 2019 Golden Ball, Golden Boot, Ballon d'Or, FIFA Best. You think of the iconic moment she's given us in a U.S. shirt. To say that her off-field impact is greater is quite something.
Then you had the 2 matches against South Africa that were the official national goodbyes for both of them. And it was a chance for the U.S. to have some international debuts. Mia Fischel, M.A. Vignola got their debuts, chance to celebrate at the same time. I know that I don't want to get wrapped up in final scores and sit there and go, oh, it was only 2-0. Oh, it was only 3-0. You only beat them by 5-0, in both matches.
Yeah.
But what can you take away from these other than sit there and say, we got to celebrate, nobody got hurt, folks got debuts? Did I miss anything?
No, that's it, John, because you have a interim head coach that, as much as I think Twyla Kilgore is probably a nice woman, she's not getting the full-time job. That just isn't what the path is. She is the interim that is just there to kind of keep things going. There's not even like a real goal, at least with like Anthony Hudson and BJ Callahan. Like, there were things you were trying to accomplish, like you were trying to win CONCACAF Nations League, you were trying to win a Gold Cup. Here, the goal is just go out there and play soccer so we can celebrate Julie Ertz and Megan Rapinoe. And in October, it'll be a little bit different, because I think Colombia is a level up from South Africa. But, I mean, the goals are still the same. We're just trying to go out there and play soccer, and that's it. So there's not much you can take from these friendlies, unfortunately. And I don't think – I mean, you can take – I think the one thing I would take is I'm very frustrated Vlatko never fully transitioned to the double pivot when it was clear that oh my goodness, Rose Lavelle wasn't going to be healthy for the World Cup. He's tried to stick with that single defensive midfielder, 2 attacking midfielder formation, and he he should have not done that. And that's the only takeaway I have from this. But that's still hindsight, and I don't know how much of a difference that would have really made in our World Cup performance. So, look, we played 2 matches. Great.
After the matches themselves, players were asked what they would like to see in a new manager. And this comes from Jeff Carlisle over at the 4-letter. Lindsey Horan's response, and then into your list of individuals and my list of individual. Let's see if we can compare and contrast the Horan answer with who's on the list. Quote, I think we want a coach that comes in and helps us in our style of play and sets a clear message of what we're going to do moving forward and how we're going to play moving forward. But someone who also can get the best out of this team and can help in individual development and just help this country grow in a way that we probably haven't seen in women's football in this country, because a lot of teams are getting better and playing better and causing problems for us. Who is that individual? Or who's on that list for you?
Well, I mean, I think that's the question is, what does style of play mean for the U.S.? Because this is something that we've talked about holistically is, you know, and you know, I know Jason could pontificate on this for years, I feel like, but I think identifying a single style of play for the United States, men's or women's, is a fool's errand because of the lack of single clarity on how soccer should be played in this country. Because you have, not only do we have 327, million people in this country, a third of those who are involved in soccer in some way, shape, or form, probably. That's probably overestimating, but whatever.
Hey, 109 million to choose from. That's a great talent pool.
You look at even just across MLS, where the Philadelphia Academy is teaching kids very differently than the Dallas Academy is teaching kids very differently than the Atlanta Academy is teaching kids very differently than the Red Bulls Academy. You don't have that variance in other countries. I mean, you think of the way Spain played and won this past World Cup. Well, that's because they've been playing that way since they were 2. That is the Spanish style. Now, it was a little bit more, I'll say it was a little bit more direct, but that was because you had Parejuelo, who's fantastic and literally a track star. But, I think the question of style of play is different from what Horan was talking about is philosophy, direction, mentality, right? The style of play, look, we're probably going to be a possession-based team because in most of our games, if not all of our games, we're going to be the team that is going to be more talented, more, talented on the ball, better passing, better at just about everything. But what does that mean from a style? Well, does that need to be a singular style, or does that just need to be a mentality and general direction and philosophy? That's my question. That's my legitimate question, because I don't know how that looks on the U.S. level. I think Greg Berhalter has instilled a style of play for the U.S. men that I think could work for the women. Don't kill me on that comment section. Mainly because the women have much more talented players, and that style of play works well with very talented players. But I don't know if there's a coach that necessarily, especially in the women's game, is so devoted to a singular style of play that would come coach the U.S.
Matt Crocker had a roundtable with reporters before the South Africa match, and he says, quote, he said he talked to about half the players, wants to talk to all of them. Quote, I think there was definitely a sense that we need to be better with the ball and have more solutions, in particular in the building, what we call building the attack. It's that sort of second phase where once the ball goes to fullback or center back, how do we get it? How do we find solutions in midfield to retain possession and build and create? And then, obviously, there was a lot of reference to when we face a low block, we've got the ball, and there's a back 5 and a deep 4 midfield, having solutions, creative solutions in those tight spaces, and having the players and also the tactics to beat the low block, really, and us needing to be better in that space, end quote.
Absolutely, and that was obviously something that Vlatko struggled with, which was, again, weird because his Kansas City teams and OL, not OL Reign at that point, they were just Seattle Reign, teams were actually pretty decent at ball possession, ball control. I would still argue that we were very good at ball possession and control. We just weren't good at building attacking phases of play. And so, yeah, that's the style of play you're looking at, is an attacking style, right? If you want to tell me what your style of play is, it's an attacking, high-tempo style. That's what I want to see from the U.S. women, because we have great athletes. We have incredibly talented soccer players. We need to press our advantages where we can. And we never did that throughout this past cycle. We weren't really capitalizing on the talent and the athletic ability that we had. But I'm glad he's talking to the players, John. I think in this sense, it makes a lot more sense, because, again, you're talking about players players that have won multiple World Cups still. You're still talking about Alex Morgan and Alyssa Nair, and even if you're talking to someone like Lindsey Horan, Rose Lavelle, they've won World Cups. So I do want them to be involved in kind of stating how they feel a coach should treat them, treat the team, and what they need from the coach. Because it was very clear that the identification process for the best coach last time around wasn't as robust as it needed to be. And I think we've seen that from Crocker, that he is going to put together a formula. Whether or not you agree with that formula is one thing, but he's going to try to put together a robust formula to find the best candidate.
Crocker said, if we're going to be brave to play in tight pockets of space in those midfield areas to start with, we're going to make mistakes. And if the first time we make those mistakes, we just revert back to type, we're never going to get past that stage. So we've got to be brave enough to know that on occasions things might go wrong. Lindsey Horan said that she's satisfied with the way Crocker is going about the search, didn't want to get into specifics of her conversations, but told Carlisle that Crocker, is asking the right questions of the players and staff, as well as how to progress the program. Quote, maybe we've fallen off a bit in terms of everything, and we've got to get better. I think he, meaning Crocker, is doing a really good job of just finding what works and what doesn't. We've got to move forward.
Yeah, and I think the problem right now is you're in this little neutral spot, right? Because these next two windows are going to be an interim head coach in Twyla Kilgore, who is basically a holdover from Vlatko. I didn't see anything at all that was different than what we saw at the World Cup. We still struggled to create in wide spaces because it was all ISO ball, that we have to get away from. We do have to play as a team, and you got to find a coach who's going to set up the team to play as a team. I know you're down for Randy Waldrum, so.
I am down for Randy Waldrum. I know that violates every aspect of backyard brawl for you. But
honestly, I think rescuing a man from having to be a Pitt is a noble cause. I say that I have enjoyed. That city is actually a great city to go visit if you ever have the time. If you're ever there, it's a great city. The university we won't need to talk. There's multiple other universities in Pittsburgh that are great, and then there's Pitt.
Why is Neil Brown still employed?
Well, he's won 3 in a row here, John.
I know.
He hasn't beaten a good team yet, but he's won 3 in a row. He's 3-1.
Okay, just checking.
We still haven't scored more than 24 points in a game yet. So
yeah,
20 points in a game.
Who do you have this weekend?
TCU. So we might score more than 20 points.
Probably will give up.
We'll probably give up about 40.
Canada looks like they're going to. Canada is going to defend their gold medal. They beat Jamaica in the aggregate 4-1. Got the second leg of that yesterday. They're going to be making their way through, but I don't know how much of this is still an ish storm, and I think a lot of it is when it comes to Canada. And I think that you've got to give the players a lot of credit for persevering and focusing on the task at hand with all the madness going on around them, that they still are doing what they're supposed to be doing against a tougher Jamaica team than in years past.
Yeah, I think they went on the road and won 2-0. That's a pretty impressive scoreline. I was genuinely not expecting that. I thought it would be a 1-1, 0-0 draw down in Jamaica, to be quite clear, because Jamaica has played very well recently. They seem to have a very bought-in team. But Canada getting a 4-1 victory over the two-legged aggregate is pretty good. I'm proud of Canada for being able to host a match in Canada. I didn't realize they were able to do that. They could do that, probably because CONCACAF did it, so CONCACAF had to kick in the money. But I'm with you, John. Like the players being able to just get out there and put their heads down and do their jobs very well is impressive, laudable. Ashley Lawrence was featured a lot, so shout out to the WVU girl there.
Joshua Clokey says that Mauro Biello looks like he could be in position for the full-time role. Right now, he is the interim. So Biello, Herdman's longtime number one, former boss at CF Montreal, given the interim tag on August 28th. Once the full-time gig, Canada Soccer also announced that the next men's team coach will be hired by the next general secretary, a role that is yet to be filled full-time since the departure of Earl Cochran back in May. They expect to name their general secretary by the end of the year, potentially extending Biello's time in charge until then. They thought that Biello would only be in charge until the middle of October for the match against Japan, but that announcement looks like it's going to keep Biello as substitute teacher for a while and right through the 2024 Copa America qualifiers in November. So Biello looks like he's got the inside kind of by default.
That's kind of the tricky thing for Canada right now, that you're playing Copa America qualifiers, not just Nations League, right? Because it's Nations League, but let's be real honest. The real prize is Copa America.
Right.
That's tricky for Canada because they do need to they need to be in there because they need the money, first off. But they need to be able to back up all the ish talk they've had for the past 3 years. And you can't talk ish if you're not at Copa America, because that means you're definitely not one of the top 4 teams in CONCACAF.
True.
Or top 6, I should say. And I think if you're Canada, you really want to qualify directly. Same as the U.S. You don't want to have to go to this playoff thing that they're doing, if you don't win the quarterfinal match. If he does well, then I don't see why Canada wouldn't keep him. I'm sure he's not going to cost as much as it wouldn't cost as much as a full-on search, which I'm sure they would be happy with, but also a guy who seems to know Canadian soccer, which probably is what they need as well. I mean, I think that was one of the benefits Herdman had, was he understood where Canada soccer was, where it needed to go. And I mean, again, he was very successful with the women's team, got more success out of the men's team, relatively speaking. And built a program that I think now should be able to launch itself to becoming an actually good team on the world stage. I mean, I don't think they're going to be competing for the top 20 anytime soon, but you need to, and look, if you want to progress, like you want to, you need to be in the top 4 of CONCACAF. You need to be in the final 4 of the Nations League. You need to be at Copa America, and doing that with the substitute teacher is going to be difficult, but the team's talented enough. I mean, that's the thing.
One more women's soccer story before we get into the 2 moments of reffing down here. And if I have to hold up the board to sit there and signify that we're adding time to the clock.
Yeah, we're adding time.
That's perfectly cool.
I'll give you what I give to my ARs when I.
There you go.
Hold up a hand.
Hold up a hand. All right. Story that I came across, and it was really interesting, and I don't know if it's interesting in a good way or a bad way. I'm leaning toward the latter. Kieran Pender at The Guardian, Football Australia. Headline: Football Australia considered selling off the Matildas and Socceroos to a private equity firm for 99 years. An exclusive says the document shows rights to national teams, A-leagues, and all data of football participants, including children, was part of the possible deal.
Yeah.
Exploring selling off the rights to basically everything to turn it all private. Deal could have involved commercializing the data of all Australian football participants, including children as young as 4, in a proposal that raised significant privacy concerns. A slide deck prepared for a working group of the FA board in late 2020, seen by Guardian Australia, reveals plans for the establishment of a new legal entity, a special purpose vehicle to control the sport's major assets. FA and Australian professional leagues would have held a majority stake in the new legal entity, with the minority holding sold to a new investor, would have each held a 50% share of the majority stake. This was like, I saw this and I'm like, really? Okay.
I have a lot of questions, Sean, because I think my first one is, you said it was late 2020.
Yeah.
So when I was reading the story, I thought this sounds like something that like Football Federation Australia was like desperate during the COVID pandemic to find a way to take this financial burden off them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember exactly, but I know they have sponsorship deals with the Matildas team. I think they have one with the Socceroos team. So I think this may have just been Football Australia trying to find ways to lessen their financial burden of fielding these teams. But I'm glad they didn't, because that data privacy thing would have been really yucky when you talk about kids, especially.
Yeah, and so I have posted it in the Twitch pitch for requested required reading for the day as something that, if you're looking for funds in 2020, sometimes you'll do things that may not necessarily be the smartest play on the board. But if you're that desperate for funds, then you'll do these.
And that's, I mean, that would have been a lifetime thing. I mean, you say 99 years, that would have just been, that's forever. The only positive would have been we would have had confirmation if Sam Kerr and Christy Mewis are engaged or not. That seems to be the rumor flying around. They both got rings on their finger. We don't know what's going on. So,
hey, mazel tov to the kids. If that is,
yeah.
2 reffing down here moments this week. I know that one was involved having to do with an open roof, and there was initial confusion on an open roof on a weekend, which folks really enjoyed because the weather benefited.
Yep.
It was a benefit to have an open air. And then there was another one involving Johnny Russell, and then Johnny Russell ended up getting more, how should we say this? Got another envelope from the disco committee. The Giacomakis goal and the machinations around it as to why this was allowed, because there was some trepidation and VAR and review and all these kinds of things, and you had to look at it, but walk us through why this was allowed to stand.
Well, first off, I had a great view of this because this happened literally right in front of my seat. So I'm cheering knowing that they're probably going to look at this for an offside, because Gigi was in the offside position when the ball was played to him, right? When that ball was kicked by either the defender or John De Silva, which is the question that they had to figure out. He was in an offside position because obviously we're pressing high. So obviously, in the VAR era, we want to keep our flags down for as long as possible. Now, I got in trouble with this over the weekend because I put my flag up a little too early. We don't have VAR at the U19 DPL level. We don't have that. So my flag went up because the player was offside. What they did was, I also think that the referee in the center, I think wasn't 97% sure, or wasn't 100% sure that Gigi was in an offside position. That's not something you fully know from that angle. And the AR may not have been fully convinced that the last player to touch it was an Atlanta United player when it went to Gigi. So both the AR and the center referee had to kind of have that conversation in the moment to go, okay, what is our actual call here? Because both men had pieces of information that they needed to come together, talk about, and say, okay, I saw the center ref said, I think, or the AR said, hey, Gigi was in an offside position, but I didn't, who touched it last? And the center referee said, I think Jean De Silva touched it last. Because when you look at the play, Jean De Silva does reach for the ball to poke it away. He's not the one who ends up touching it last, basically, is what it comes down to. So they called it was incorrect, but it was the correct process to call the goal offside in the beginning. I do think it took a little too much time to send it to review. I think if I were like the center ref, I would be like, hey, can you check that? Because we need to know. You go to VAR. The VAR says, yeah, you need to take a look at this. And the center referee says, yeah, okay, that was a deliberate play on the ball by the defender, meaning that he wasn't kicked or fouled even during it. That was probably another thing they were looking at. It was a deliberate play on the ball by the defender, and Gigi was the benefactor, even though he was in the offside position.
Second moment, Johnny Russell got an extra envelope from our friends at the disciplinary committee for failing to leave the field in a timely manner in the 37th minute of the match against Houston on the weekend. Wanted to have a little bit of an extra discussion, figure out why he was given a red. And
fair question.
Then he continued to discuss, and then he goes to security, and he's wanting to have a talk with the fourth on his way out the door. 37th minute, he got a red. He wanted to talk, and so he got a little bit of an extra envelope. What is your takeaway there with that one?
I think he's right to be upset because there was no foul called on the incident that he got a red card. look, I saw a Scottish guy saying like, oh, that's not a foul. That's a casual, hello in Scotland, which is probably very true. But I don't particularly think it was a red card either, personally.
Yeah.
And I think again, you didn't call a foul on the field. You weren't even giving it a yellow card on the field. And you had the AR right there, and he didn't put a flag up. I'm wondering, I didn't see if the fourth official provided any insight because I was also kind of close to the fourth official. I didn't see anything that he provided. The referee didn't signal for anything in the moment. I don't think it was a red card, especially when you compare it to an incident that happened in the Miami-Orlando game that probably should have absolutely been a red card, that the player got away with the yellow card because he wears a pink jersey.
So I figured that one would kind of fire you up a little bit.
Well, that was a red card. Like, that's what the David Ruiz, that's a red card. He goes in 2 feet, scissor kicks the guy with a foot at the knee level. For me, foot anywhere above your ankle, you're cruising for a red card. If you go at the knee, why is your foot that high? This coming from a former goalkeeper who routinely put his foot up high. But why are you doing that on a tackle like that in the middle of the field when also your other leg is coming from behind to kick the guy in the ankles? That is a red card. That is serious foul play. And he doesn't get a red card because I don't know. We got to give Miami a little bit of help because they don't have Messi, and we need to have them in the playoffs, even though they're not going to make it because they have they don't have enough points remaining at this point in time, in my opinion.
The man in his helicopter. You went to the Sikorsky plant and
yeah, I mean, look, I'm going full on. Like, look, if Miami can have 17 DPs, okay, or whatever they're at now, they're talking about who are they talking about signing the other day? Modric. No, they were talking about Modric signing Modric. There's a rumor that they're signing Modric, and I'm like, they don't. What DP slot do they have available to sign Luka Modric?
Well, if they buy Gregory down, then they will have one.
Okay, so they'll have 5 DPs. If they can break all the roster rules, then we can have conversations about how the league is clearly helping them in some referee decisions. And it's not even a referee decision like, oh, it's concerted. It's just like, yeah, they're getting the benefit of the doubt on everything. I don't have a problem. Look, we'll talk about the conspiracies because Miami's getting every chance they can to make the playoffs. Despite Messi, Alba, and Busquets having to be put together by bubble gum and duct tape. I mean, they need the help. So they're not going to make it, just like Atlanta's not going to make a home playoff spot. But, we're running up against time, and they just don't have the time.
So what's going on at SoccerForUSPod?
We recorded yesterday, so we'll have something probably by tomorrow once I get done editing it. Talking about these women's friendlies, but also I've talked with Caleb, who's also from the Atlanta area. He and I talked a lot about U.S. soccer moving to Atlanta and what it means, not just for U.S. soccer from just the holistic training perspective, but also how this is, kind of a signal of Atlanta being a major player in not just U.S. soccer, but U.S. sports. And I as I made the comment on the podcast, people forget we hosted the Olympics, y'all. We're a big time city. You know who hasn't hosted the Olympics? Chicago.
That's true.
Ain't no Dallas in the Olympics.
No.
Get out of here.
No.
New York City ain't ever hosted the Olympics.
No, that's true.
Us, LA, and St. Louis.
And Salt Lake.
For the summer.
Oh,
well, Salt Lake and Lake Placid for a winter. Lake Placid. I don't even know where Lake Placid is. I know it's in New York.
It's in the mountains.
Is it a Finger Lake or is it a?
It's in that area. I mean, it's up in that part. I've been there. I went to the bobsled training facility once and got to see them do that.
I just know it's in New York.
Yes, it is.
And there was an alligator or something in there. Wasn't that the movie about?
Yes, and don't mess with Betty White.
Yeah.
At SoccerForUSPod at Bartimus Prime 19. Actually, yeah, you were right when you held up your board.
Yeah, that was about right.
So let's see. I thought there was one other thing that I had in my brain that I was going to
discuss. Hey, I got time, John. So.
Where do you think the training facility is going to be? Where do you think HQ is going to be?
I don't know because I think there's a couple of options. and I have zero insight into this, so please just understand that. I think the option that I think makes the most sense, because it's currently being used as a sports soccer complex, is Georgia Sports Park down off of Ben Hill Road on the southwest side of Atlanta. It's still ITP. It's very close to the airport, which I do think they want to try to stay close to the airport, because that kind of seems to be like, one, it's going to cut costs on shuttling and whatever. I'm sure they'll have their own shuttles, but you don't want Christian Pulisic and Weston McKennie getting off of a flight from Torino and Milan and then having to sit in an hour on a bus. Now I do. This is the idea I have, John. Sorry, okay. This is way off track. I need Weston McKennie and Christian Pulisic on MARTA. Give me that and the behind the crest video whenever they cut. Like, give me them. Take a video crew with them and put them on MARTA for like a trip. I want to see this. But I think Georgia Sports Park down there on the southwest side of the city would be good. They've already got about 7 fields. They have a building there, like a small. They could get rid of that. But you've already got the land. There's land around it that you could expand. The other possible location could be the DeKalb location that they presumed to build the Atlanta United Training Center before it went to Marietta. And I think the other option, honestly, John, is somewhere next to the Atlanta United Training Facility. I think that could also be a potential spot. The thing that you have to remember is they're not just building a headquarters building. They're building a playing facility. They're probably building a showcase stadium or 2.
Yeah.
It could be, the second one might be what they have at the, Atlanta United Training Grounds, but they're probably going to build a 5,000 to 10,000 seat showcase stadium is my bet, on top of another stadium field, because they have the stated goal of hosting youth tournaments and stuff. And so they're not talking about, Georgia soccer youth tournaments. They're talking about inviting the French national team and Senegalese U19s and all these teams to come over and play. They're going to need 10 plus fields. They're probably going to need some indoor training facilities. They're going to need some smaller size fields, as well as some dedicated indoor space for playing because of the extended national team programs that they're housing there. And then you're going to probably need, outside of just the indoor training, indoor performance centers. This is going to house referee and coaching development. So you're probably going to have some classroom stuff there that may be an HQ, but you're talking about all these things being built. And what I think people don't realize, and this is where Atlanta does make the most sense for a couple of reasons. One, we've got the airport. That is the number one seller. But 2, you still can buy and build inside Atlanta, which, for us is ITP.
Right.
For a relatively inexpensive cost. And you're going to need a lot, because right now, U.S. Soccer has the headquarters in Chicago, no longer Soccer House, but some office building location.
Office house,
yeah. They use Kansas City for a lot of their coaching and referee, their big coaching and referee development classes. And then they have most of their youth training is done out in LA at the Olympic/Home Depot Center, not Home Depot Center, Dignity Health Sports Park. Sorry.
There you
go. My bad. And those are all large facilities in themselves. Like, you think about the Kansas City training facility, you think about the U.S. National Olympic Training Facility / Dignity Health. Those are large facilities as they are. Mm-hmm. And you're consolidating all of those 3 locations into one. You're going to need a lot of space. And I think Atlanta has the space to provide that still in the city. I don't think they'll want to go too far outside the city. I really don't think that makes sense, John.
No.
We're not looking at they're going to be next to the NHL team out in Cumming, but I think they might. I could see them in the Roswell Marietta extension, if that makes sense, kind of that far out.
Yep, I'm right there with you.
But Georgia Sports Soccer Park is the one that I think that location makes the most sense. And you can still run a club out of there. That's, to me, the other thing is you can still run because Georgia Soccer Park right now is just used for high-level youth games by Concord Fire. They could still do that.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be, that those training fields aren't going to be used 24/7. So.
Nope, right there with you. I think it's.
Where do you want it?
I think the South Side is where I'm looking. Georgia Soccer, their part that was what was sticking in my head was something south, close to the airport. Get them in, get them out, get them trained, have space. It's there, you can do it. My secondary site was something that you have been championing for quite some time. Is all of that space in the West End over at Herndon.
Yeah.
And then just turn that upside down and have it as a part of AUC. And you've got the link to Mercedes-Benz right there. So you can have that travel right there, really, really easy between the two facilities if you needed it to have the large venue for the big game. And then you have the training facilities there. But I think
I don't know how much Mercedes-Benz is going to play into this, John.
No, but I mean,
we still have the turf on the field. So
you'll swap it out. We've seen it in the summer series. But I think Georgia Soccer Park.
We haven't shown. Yeah.
I think Georgia Soccer is my number one place down there on the South Side.
To me, it makes the most sense because it's already fit for that use, and there's space to add other fields and training facilities and everything, and it's in a fine location. People don't have to live right next door because there's really not a lot of livable space there, to be honest. But it's close enough to other things that you can live in, Peachtree City still. You could live in Henry County, Clayton County. You could live in the city and get there very easily.
Yep, no doubt. All right, let me wrap up the show because I've got stuff, gossip, rumor, and innuendo and stuff to watch. So SoccerForUSPod due out allegedly tomorrow.
Yeah.
When he's done, we'll post it. We'll post it in short order. He's Bartimus Prime 19, and he got to hang out for 12 added minutes.
I know. Hey, y'all, enjoy the Gummy Bear Cup today.
Oh, yeah, exactly. We want upsets. Be good, my friend. There's Bart. He's from the Arsenal Cup, and so he's getting all gassed up and ready for there. The rest of the gossip before we go. Newcastle set to open talks with Joelinton and Sean Longstaff about extending their contracts, both set to run out by June of 25. Everton are hoping to tie up Jared Branthwaite to a new deal. Barcelona considering a move for Wilfred Ndidi when his Leicester contract expires at the end of the season. Napoli tracking PSG's Christophe Galtier following a poor start of the season under Rudy Garcia. Marseille are also interested. We mentioned yesterday about Sir Jim Ratcliffe trying to restructure his deal with the Glazers and buying Manchester United. Barcelona have verbally agreed to a 35 million euro fee with Manchester City to turn Joao Cancelo's loan into a permanent deal. That's from our friends at Il Chiringuito. Take that information at your own peril. Benjamin Sesko says he spoke to Manchester United over the summer before he left Red Bull Salzburg, but felt a move to RB Leipzig was better for his development. Reading have been placed under a transfer embargo for failing to pay Her Majesty's royalties and customs on time and could face a further points deductions if they fail to pay wages to players and staff this Friday. That might be when we have somebody on the show to talk about it. And Chelsea have been given Premier League approval to have a sports data company, Infinite Athlete, to be on the front of the shirt, worth about £40 million for the year. What to watch and where to watch it from our friends at Soccer America. One other piece of news to keep an eye on. Ukraine's going to boycott the UEFA football competitions involving Russia. The Ukrainian Association of Football condemned on yesterday the decision by UEFA to return the Russian U17 teams to international competitions and said that Ukraine would boycott games involving Russia. Soccer on the tube. BN has the Turkish Super League at 1 o'clock. Demirspor and Besiktas. They've got the Sudamericana at 6. Liga de Quito, Defensa y Justicia. Libertadores at 8:30. Fluminense Internacional. BN and BN in Espanol. You can grab that at Fanatis, ftz.co/soccer down here. And you can watch BN, all the BNs, Brasileiro. You can watch CDO. You can watch Gold TV. You can watch TAC. You can watch For the Fans, all that stuff. You can watch it ftz.co/soccer down here. Scottish League Cup, Rangers and Livingston at 3 o'clock. Jared will be watching that. Open Cup Finals at 8:30. Inter Miami and Houston, FS2. The Caribbean Club Championship between Harborview and Robin Hood. That's at 8 o'clock. BN and Espanol is your simulcast for the Turkish Super League, the Sudamericana, and the Libertadores. ESPN Deportes, Spanish La Liga, EA Sports. Real Madrid, Las Palmas, Valencia, Real Sociedad, 1 and 3:30. Fox Deportes has Serie B, Como and Sampdoria. If it's at Como, gorgeous visuals to start that at 2:30. Telemundo simulcasting Universo simulcasting Open Cup final. ACC Extra has Gardner-Webb and NC State at 7. Season Pass, once again, Freeside, Philadelphia, Dallas, Colorado, Vancouver, LAFC, and Tigres is on Season Pass. B1G Plus has a game at 7. ESPN Plus has the Eredivisie at 12 and 3:30. 5 matches in the Gummy Bear Cup at 2:30 and 3. DFB Pokal at 2:30. 3 matches in the La Liga at 1. 2 at 3:30 involving Valencia, Real Sociedad, Cadiz, and Rayo Vallecano. Middle of the week action, Hartford, Tampa Bay, Detroit, Colorado Springs, and USL Championship. A lot of men's soccer. 5 matches in women's soccer. And that's a lot. Fox Soccer Plus has Como and Sampdoria also. Paramount Plus has the Brasileiro at 6. 6 matches in Serie A, 3 at 12:30, 3 at 2:45, plus the Open Cup. Peacock has Open Cup as well at 8:30. Thanks to Bart. Thanks to Dylan. Thanks to you for going added time. We got 17 extra minutes today because there's that much to talk about. We'll be back at it again tomorrow. Once again, hour number 2. We'll have our friends from the USL show at 10. We'll have Nico on at 10:30. Thursdays with Nico, we'll talk about the rebrand because he was there, and follow him on social media, and you can see all the pictures. Later today, you'll have the MLS Next Pro show, the review preview, getting ready for the playoffs, and you will also have an interview that will be up having to do with the new franchise in the state of Wisconsin for the NPSL. We're having that conversation later this afternoon as well. A lot of stuff. Busy day. Thanks for being with us for as long as you are. Every single day. We'll be back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning. Mucha plata, y'all. Play it safe. And since it's the end of the show, that means I get to do this. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning.